Welcome to Heroes Rising, hosted by Sifu Rafael, a master instructor, public speaker, and the founder of Speaking Prowess. Known for his expertise in empowering individuals through the art of communication and leadership. Alongside him is co-host Jose Escobar, an acclaimed personal development speaker, 18-time published author, and founder of 2 thriving businesses, including the Connected Leaders Academy. Together, they bring you dynamic conversations with world-class entrepreneurs, industry icons, and visionaries. Heroes Rising is your go-to source for wisdom, motivation, and unstoppable growth. Join us and discover the hero within you.
Jose, how are you, my friend? How's everything going today?
All is well. Thank you. How about yourself?
Oh, man, exceptional. I can't complain. Things are getting better every day.
For sure. That's the way it has to be. That's life and business. Always in the uphill trajectory.
That's it. Well, you know what? It's because of my mindset, and it's because of the actions I've taken, right? Just like you. We're both on a rocket, aren't we?
Yes, they say all things, good or bad, compound over time. That's for sure.
And we have 2 exceptional guests who are also on a rocket. So let's go bring them on so that we don't leave them on down there, right? Let's bring them up with us. Let's go ahead and bring Dr. Garrett and Jason. Gentlemen, how are you this happy Friday?
Doing very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Love it, love it.
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. So today we're talking about a couple of things that are very powerful. Detoxing the body. Let's start with that, if you can. And I know, Dr. Garrett, you are. I love when I looked at your website. It looked like you were like Inspector Gadget, or just like an old type of PI, right? Looking at the secrets that some people leave, right?
Yeah. We're taught very incorrect things, and when we really look into it and we put it together, I don't know, it was funny when people were coming to me asking me what I should do as my brand, and they're like, what do you do? And I said, I'm kind of a detective in nutrition. And then it was like, oh, there you go, there's the nutrition detective.
Yeah,
That's
love that. Really cool stuff. When you say you a detective in nutrition, what does that mean to anybody who's just, Taco Bell is a choice, McDonald's, Burger King, all these, I don't want to give them any credit, but that's their choice on a daily basis. Before you even answer, I had a client who fed her child the double M, the double arcs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I could not get this person to consider their child and what they were doing to their child. And I don't even know what that child looks like today, which is sad.
Right. Well, the thing about it is, so what I'm doing is, well, when we look around us, there's a famous saying, which the purpose of a system is what it does, right? So if we look around us and we see so many sick people, we have to assume that is that the system's goal? Is the system designed to make people sick and unhealthy and unhappy and all of these things? And it seems to be, because nobody seems to be, very few people can pull themselves out of it, but the majority of people are just going deeper into it. So we're all told that a lot of these vitamins are good for us, and even a lot of the supposed essential minerals we're told are good for us are actually, when I do my detective work and I get into it, and I'm coming at it from, like, what do I see in real people? Like, even if I disregard the research, or if I just kind of put a light emphasis on the research, and then I actually do these things to people, like when I did it to myself, when I was kind of reverse engineering hair mineral analysis and the way people did it, I would take things and I would see what they did to me. And then as I was learning about them, I would, do the things that they said to do with my clients and my patients. And then we'd see if it actually panned out. Was what we were told the truth. And if it isn't, what is the truth? Is the exact opposite thing true? Like when we do a little detective work, the vitamin D3 supplements that everybody's taking are sold in stores as literal rat poison.
Mm.
When you are taking a vitamin D3 supplement, you are taking the exact same active ingredient as in literal rat poison that will send dogs to the hospital if they eat the rat baits. Like kids can get in trouble for it. They've over fortified milk before and killed children. Like they over fortified it on accident and children died. So when we get into this whole thing about like vitamin D is so good for you, maybe it's not. And I have a lot of people who have gotten a lot better simply by stopping their vitamin D pills. The signs that if you're taking vitamin D and you're getting very stiff and very tired and you're feeling, more pain, those are really good signs that you might benefit from stopping it. And then other things that in the research you can do, there's very strange things that you can do to increase your vitamin D levels that have nothing to do with vitamin D. Eat enough protein, get enough zinc, get enough magnesium, obviously get enough sunlight or ultraviolet B light. Do those things, and then your internal vitamin D levels are able to go up and you don't have to take a rat poison.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like that's like part of the detective work. That was one of the early things where when I was in 2013 in my office, I was doing finger prick vitamin D tests. I was so into it. I was a very early adopter. I've always been an early adopter. And I thought it was really important. And then I started doing hair analysis, and then I saw what it did to hair tests. Vitamin D will just raise the calcium on hair tests and lower the potassium like crazy. And then I started saying, I think they're right in the hair analysis world that vitamin D is not good for us.
Right.
And so I started noticing that I was getting problems from it. And then I started taking all my people off of it that I had put on. That's one of the things that people have found is different about me is if I learn that I made a mistake with my clients, I will not continue doing it. I will sack up and tell the people, I made a huge mistake. You need to get off of this. I may be the only person out here saying this, but you're going to feel better when you get off of it. And then they would. And then, I have people who have been with me for, 18 years now, because they told me I'm the only doctor they trust. The only one that they really believe is going to try to help them regardless of whatever's going on. So that's kind of the detective thing. That's kind of like an example of what I did.
Well, you're an anomaly, right? So what am I holding up here? It's a beet. And you're talking about the right foods. And why would I be holding up a beet? Because that's how I broke my fast today. And so I did that with beets and mixed greens and cucumbers. And so when I used to go to doctors, I still go to doctors just to get a blood test once a year. That's all I see them for. But they were like, what vitamins are you on? What are you doing? What are you taking? And then I go, food? Food? What do you mean food? I said, yeah, food is my nutrition. Food is my medicine. Well, you should be taking this. You should be taking that. I said, what if I didn't do that and ate it instead, where it came from nature? One question that I am going to ask you is, even things that come from the ground today don't have the nutritional value they did 50 years ago. Talk to us about that. And I don't want to just you and me have this conversation. I want everybody to jump in as well, because that is so viable that we are killing the earth with all this junk that we keep putting into it.
Well, part of it is, and I'm not an anti-capitalist, but part of it is capitalism in that as long as a farmer can bring, let's say, meat or a vegetable or fruit to the market and they can get paid for it, there's really no incentive for them to add minerals back to the soil. If it just adds an expense to them and somebody at the store is buying it and they can't tell the difference between the two of them nutritionally, Like the farmer doesn't benefit. The farmer actually takes a hit, and it's hard enough for farmers out there today as it is, right? So we have kind of this system that doesn't really support health in a way. There's no benefit to making, what do restaurants want to do? What does the Golden Arches want to do? They want people to come in and buy their food again. So they want it to hit as many like addictive buttons as it possibly can, which doesn't mean it's good for people. I mean, the key thing to know about addictions is addictions are always bad for you. So if people are addicted to something, that means it's toxic. Like people say, well, am I addicted to meat? And I say, no, I'm not addicted to meat. If I don't eat meat and I were to only eat vegan or something, I would feel hungry, but I'm not like gonna have withdrawals from meat. I'm not gonna be trembling and, getting angry and all that stuff. So there's that part. The thing about the soils, I was just going over this the other day I did a zinc live stream. So half of the world's soils are deficient in zinc. So this means any plants that are grown in that soil are deficient in zinc. This means the plants if we eat those plants, they don't have the zinc in them that they're supposed to. The plants that we grow to feed to the animals don't have the zinc in them that they need. So then the animals are then deficient. So then when we eat the plants or the animals, we're not getting enough zinc. And that's just the way it works. So if nobody gets into putting the minerals back in the soil the way they should, or then it doesn't happen. Let me give you a really good example. Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are known as a high source of selenium, right? At least they used to be. Brazil nuts grow like in a kind of jungle setting down in South America. And they don't really mess with it much. So they just go in and kind of harvest the Brazil nuts. So what the Brazil nut trees do is they pull the selenium out of the soil. But if they're always pulling the selenium out of the soil to put it in the Brazil nuts, and we come and take the Brazil nuts away so they don't drop to the ground and recycle selenium into the soil, right? Do you see how over time, what I've seen on hair tests, people who are trying to get their selenium from Brazil nuts, it's not working anymore. Because the trees take the selenium out of the soil, we take the Brazil nuts away, and they just let the jungle do its thing to grow Brazil nuts. So we're taking stuff out, but we're never putting stuff back in. So it's a really big issue. I have seen it in my career time. Like I started in practice in 2006. I have seen foods that used to be able to keep people's mineral levels where I wanted them a certain amount a day that don't work anymore. So we get to a point. So this is what I want to say about what you're trying to do with food is admirable. If you're only trying to do food, it is admirable. Now, however, what if you have a deficiency of something that the food will not fix? Because the food is deficient, right? So if the food is deficient, how can you have enough? And then let's say if somebody's trying to actively detox toxins, just like if you wanted to clean your house more, you're going to use more cleaning supplies, right? So if you're trying to actively detox, you need even more minerals to do that. And then, so those are the two big things. So then if somebody refuses to get the proper amount of nutrients, whatever method they need to do, they may never catch up.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. It's just math, right? So I just let people know, I'm like, you can do it this way. You can absolutely do it this way.
I want to mention something outside of Don Callahan's questions, because there's some good questions there and really good insights, Dr. Garrett. Thank you for that. I remember maybe a year and a half ago, something like that, I did 75 hard for like the 5th time, right? And I do that from time to time. And then I said, for this particular 75 days, I'm going to go on intermittent fasting. So I did that. And tell me why, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 35, 40 days into it, maybe almost 45 days, I started getting a really bad pain on the bottom of my foot, right? And it was really bad, and I was limping, literally limping, and on the heel of my foot. So, and it was really bad, almost like gout, right? And then, and I was like, what is going on? So I ended up going to the hospital, to the ER, because I literally couldn't walk on it. It was that bad. So I went to the hospital. The doctor did a bunch of tests and did a bunch of things and said, listen, so you're on this diet, is that right? I was like, yeah, intermittent fasting. He's like, why don't you try eating a potato and see what happens? Right. So I went home and I had a potato.
Mhm.
And within a few hours, can I tell you something? I could jump up and down. Absolutely crazy. I don't know how much of that was psychological, but it was literally the pain was gone.
Mhm.
And then I started eating more carbs, and literally my life was back. But I was really, really bad. So anything to speak to that, maybe?
Well, just some quick things, because you didn't go into specifically how you were eating on intermittent fasting. Like I have a joke about intermittent fasting, and I say it's the new fancy way of saying skipping breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Because so for a lot of people, that's all intermittent fasting is they just skip breakfast, and
Right.
you go, well, that's not scientific. That's not, you know. So, but if you were combining intermittent fasting with like low carb or something like that, then you're going to get into, I mean, the whole really what some of the recent research on intermittent fasting that's coming out is not good. So your experience is showing the same thing that they're finding, like cold plunges. Now there's research coming out showing that cold plunges over time make people fatter, which was the exact opposite that people used to claim. Because this is a crazy thing. This is a concept of mine. It's the duration paradox, which is one of the ways I put it is things that there's like a honeymoon phase in the short term, things that are not good for you. There can be a honeymoon phase in the short term where you feel better. And then long term, it destroys that very same thing. The biggest example of this that people understand is coffee. Like coffee at the start perks everybody up, right? But then after a while, after you've done it long enough, you have to have coffee just to feel normal. And then the amount of coffee starts going up. And it's this drug effect. But at the start, you're like, you feel amazing. And they talk about it as a performance enhancer. But then they also talk about once people use it long enough, it's not really a performance enhancer anymore because your body has adapted to this toxin. Caffeine's a pesticide made by the plants. So with your intermittent fasting, I mean, really what it is intermittent fasting is a way to eat less calories. You're just reducing the amount of time you eat in a day, which automatically tends to make people eat less. Now, the potato thing, was it cramping in your foot or was it just a pain?
Oh, it was just a pain, like to the touch. It was like really painful.
Okay. So now one thing I know about cramps in the bottom of the feet is very related to potassium. Potatoes are very high in potassium. And so and also when people low carb in general, they tend to get a lot of salt and not a lot of potassium. So you may have just by having the carbs is one thing that could have been it too, but the potassium and the carbs and all that stuff may have just shifted you out of this kind of little slide that you had been on because of purposeful dietary choices. I did intermittent fasting for a while. I'm fine with like eating 2 meals a day. I think a lot of guys can get away with that. Women can't. Like women's metabolisms will just tank on fasting type stuff. They are not made for it. But men can get away with it for a while. But I tend to like a snack in the morning, and then I might do 2 meals. So one of the big things with my work is people have to figure out what works for them.
That's it. That's it right there. Yeah, what works for you. For example, I do intermittent fasting, and everybody's different. And when you talked about the 2 meals, that's basically what I do. So I break my fast, if you will, breakfast. It's really to break my fast. And then I will eat correctly. So I will have a salad, I'll have some protein, I'll have stuff like that. And then later on, maybe 3 hours later, then I'll have a bigger meal, which will be some other protein. It can be vegetables of some sort. Sometimes it'll be a sweet potato. So I'm getting all of the correct stuff in my system, and I don't feel hungry. And sometimes even my fiance is like, "You're starving yourself." I'm like, but I'm not hungry. I'm not starving myself. I'm taking care of my body, because guess what? There is not one portion of my day that I'm not full of energy. It's not like I'm crashing. I don't crash at all. I've been doing this forever. And there's certain days that I go, okay, maybe I'm not fasting today, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be constantly eating, which is what most Americans do. And the foods in America compared to the foods in Europe are so different, because some of the foods that we can buy at the supermarket or the bakery are illegal in other countries, totally illegal. And if they're illegal there, why are we allowed to purchase them? It's because of the food industry,
Yeah.
because they're saying, you know what? It, like you talked earlier, it's going to make them addictive. Unfortunately, we lost Jason. I think he had a bad connection.
Oh,
We couldn't hear him in the beginning. So it's the three of us, unless he just jumps back in. StreamYard is weird. I apologize, everybody. StreamYard is weird because you can be on a Zoom call and there's no problem. When you go on StreamYard, StreamYard has a weird pull. And even though I'm connected to the internet, both wirelessly and connected with a wire, sometimes it says that my connection's no good. So StreamYard, get your act together. Stop detoxing us, right?
I use Streamlabs. If you want to try something else, I use Streamlabs personally.
I appreciate that. I will have to look. But here's the thing, right? So, and I love what you said, that everybody has to really negotiate what works for them, right? Because what may work for you, what may make you bloated, may not make me bloated. The same thing goes for Jose. And so one of the things I always tell my clients is you have to actually listen to your food. Jose, do I say that often?
Yes.
Basically all the time. I say, you have to talk to your food. What are you going to do to me? How are you going to treat me? And then give it 30 to 90 minutes, and that food will tell you how it feels. So the crazy thing for me is that people are like, how on earth are you always full of energy? You're always on the go. You're always moving. And sometimes I work out 3 to 4 times a day, because I wake up at 4:30 in the morning or 4 in the morning. I go to the gym, I work out. Then I'll come to my own gym and I'm like, oh, I feel like working out again. And I'll work out again. And then later on, I may be teaching either boxing class and I'm doing pad work and I'm working out again. Or I may be teaching a Kung Fu class and I'm working out again. But I'm energized. I'm not drained. And it's because of the way I'm feeding my body. Right. And so, but not everybody can necessarily function the way I do, because maybe they're not listening to their body or their food.
Yeah, absolutely. I congratulated somebody the other day for being a good, I called them a very good detective work. They did very good detective work. The person found out that like extra potassium in their diet did not help them at all. Most of my people, it helps a lot. And he said, I just got this hunch that maybe it wasn't working for me. And he stopped having as much potassium in both supplements and diet. And then he said, no, I just started feeling better and better. And I was like, amazing. I told everybody on the call, because we do these group calls, I said, don't everybody go do this, because this is not normal. Like, this is atypical. I try not to use the term weird. I just said this is abnormal. This is atypical, but it worked. So we had one guy, his eczema went away when he stopped eating starch. We had another woman, all her child's problems went away when she figured out stearic acid, a fatty acid, was his problem. And she took out all the foods with that. And then all of a sudden, some of these people's health issues completely clear up.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, amazing work. Because I have to, when I'm doing this work, I have to think of the majority of people, right? So the outliers, you don't throw the outlier things. Like, I'm not going to tell everybody to try not eating any starch for their eczema, because we have better things that work more consistently than that. The stearic acid thing was weird. This potassium thing, and this is now the second person with a weird potassium thing that I've come across. So the outliers are great. They have to be invested in doing the detective work. That's a big, okay. So what you were talking about with the McDonald's lady, with the kids, nowadays, if people are not interested in their own health, they will most likely be misled by good marketers in the health and nutrition world.
Yeah.
And if they're not interested in figuring out what actually works, most of the people who come to my work have tried multiple approaches. They've been messed up by multiple diets and multiple other, supplement things. And I'm usually the guy who's telling them to quit all that crap. and like simplify your diet and let's go down to the basics. And then we start getting them better. And we're having conditions get fixed that doctors don't really talk about getting fixed. And then I have other haters out there saying I'm doing all the wrong things. And I'm like, how am I fixing things that other people don't fix? So, well, I don't say, how am I fixing it? I'm not fixing it. The person is fixing it. I'm like a guide. I'm like teaching people how to fish, and then they go and they fish. So, yeah.
Very quickly, I can say that the haters will never disappear. They're always going to be there.
Oh,
but when it comes to, since we're talking nutrition, I'm curious on your thoughts on this on both sides, both Sifu and Dr. Garrett. And that is when it comes to, because I go to a lot of networking events, happy hours, mastermind dinners, conferences, summits, you name it. I'm in a lot of these rooms all the time. And usually that involves like a couple of drinks in the process of the dinner and the talking and the handshakes and the pictures and all the things, right? So when it comes to that environment and the drinks, right, which I enjoy, I'm not going to lie, like I don't. I enjoy a few, nice cocktails or whatever. So if we were to like line up like beer, liquor, cocktails, and wine, I hear, well, first of all, beer bellies, terrible for your gut. Liquor kills your liver fast because it's really, more intense. My assumption. I don't really know any of this. And then I hear wine is good for your heart in moderation, right? To have some wine, it could be potentially good for you as long as you don't overdo it. What are your thoughts on which path to go down if you had to indulge?
If somebody had to, I mean, first of all, so this is where the detective part of me is going to come out here. And so I'm not endorsing alcohol. People in my field know that I'm not supporting alcohol, although I'm most interested in people being educated about it so that they can make the best choices. Because if they're, who's most adults, even if they're very strict in, let's say, my program and all that stuff, are they never going to drink again? No. And do I tell them that they're like a bad person if you drink? No, I don't do that. Like, people are going to go and do these things. Like, they're going to have cake on their birthday. Like, that may not be great for them, but they enjoy it and it's with family. And so then we have to get into, what about the social part of it? How much of that is good for people? Because like people who don't have social networks and friends and all that, they're not going to do well. So anyway, but about the alcohol, generally, so people have to think about what their goal is with the alcohol. Is your goal to get drunk? If your goal is to get drunk, then don't eat beforehand, right? You get more drunk on less alcohol. So if you want to, if you were going to like a business meeting and you were going to have drinks because that's what they do, and you wanted to stay as sober as possible, you might have something very absorbent beforehand. You could even have activated charcoal, but you could have bread. You could have like heavy absorptive foods that soak up the alcohol so it goes into your system slower. So you could, like, those two things, you could try to be as little drunk as possible. You could try to be as drunk as possible. So then so that's just like thinking about what is the goal here. Then we get into the types of alcohol. Generally, clear liquors are the more times they're distilled, like if you saw like a 10 times distilled vodka, that's probably going to be that's what you're trying to get out of beer, out of wine, out of whatever that you're drinking. So if that's what you're trying to get, then you can have that, and then you could mix it with whatever. You could mix it with, soda water, the old vodka, soda water, lime thing, and that's probably the least damaging. That would be if I was choosing to pick something, that's what I would do. Like, beer is basically yeast waste. Like, the alcohol in beer is from sugar going through yeast, and yeast making you could jokingly say it's like yeast poop. Like, that's what they do. And wine is, again, from yeast, the yeast on the outside of the grapes. And that's what ferments it. That same thing with cider. It's the yeast, the naturally occurring yeast and bacteria on the outside of the apple that turns it into cider. So those things that are fermented are going to have a lot more extra waste products in them that would be distilled out in a clear liquor. Now, like whiskey, bourbon, that stuff with those colors in it, that's polyphenols. That actually slows down. So this is where we get into other things about alcohol. So when you open rabbit holes with me. You got to be careful. So the whiskey polyphenols, the things that make whiskey and bourbon yellowish or brownish, the things that make wine very red, these are called polyphenols. Like when you hear of resveratrol, that's one of them. These things actually, okay, so I'm gonna have to back up a little bit. When you drink alcohol, the alcohol goes through an enzyme called ADH, which is alcohol dehydrogenase. That turns it into an aldehyde called acetaldehyde. Okay, so the ethanol turns into acetaldehyde. Acetaldehyde is what can kill you from alcohol poisoning. It is what causes hangovers. So acetaldehyde is the nasty stuff. Now, then acetaldehyde to break down further into what's called acetic acid, which is basically vinegar. For acetaldehyde to break down, it has to go through an enzyme called ALDH, aldehyde dehydrogenase. Well, polyphenols inhibit ALDH. So polyphenols slow down the very detox enzyme that breaks down acetaldehyde, which is the main problem with alcohol, in it turning into acetic acid. So this is a really important thing. There's very important things in nutrition that help ALDH to run. There's selenium, there's molybdenum, there's not flesh niacin or nicotinic acid. These things help it to run. They give it the energy and the materials that it needs to run. Like a car needs parts and a car needs gas. So that's what these things are giving us. So most people are deficient in those. And funny thing is, as we're younger, we tend to have more of these nutrients and we're less toxic. And then as we get older, we tend to run out of these nutrients and become less toxic just by living. Mm-hmm. Well, the more toxic you are and the less nutrients you have, the slower your detox runs. So do you remember maybe back in those days of college and stuff when you could drink and not get a hangover and wake up early in the morning? And then you go through the years and then you start going, why am I getting hungover on 2 or 3 drinks? This doesn't make any sense. What happened? Well, your ALDH got basically slowed down because it's lacking what it needs, and it's you've got more toxins in you. So that's like, this is the kind of detox detective work that we do. And that ALDH enzyme, that's actually the most important detox enzyme in the entire body, in my opinion. The absolute most important one. So the beer and the wine and the ciders and that stuff, the stuff with polyphenols, the colored drinks, if you will, those are going to have more of the things that slow down your detox.
Wow. Powerful
stuff. Clear liquor would be the best choice.
So Jose talked about going to events, and then I have to share this, so take a look.
Punch on the roof, vibe so fly, Sifu, Rafael, and lots of luck. We rise sky high from the balls to the block. They coming in deep, energy loud in the convo steep. Elevate minds, build real ties. The same no top is where futures rise. July 20th, make that move. NYC heat with a global groove. Secure your spot, don't miss this truth. We brunching with purpose high up on the roof. Secure your spot, don't miss this truth. We brunching with purpose high up on the roof.
So with that in mind, when I create an event and I'm doing a brunch, right? We have a choice when we show up somewhere. Jose and I have been at events, and he can tell you how I choose to indulge, if you will. Like we went to a diner, and I asked, instead of bread, I said, can I have like a salad with eggs, right? So it just goes to show that even no matter where we are, we can make better choices in the situation at the moment. Because most people, they say, well, I'm here, I might as well just indulge, right? And when we indulge, we forget who we are for the moment, because it's what's available. And so if it's that bad, I'd rather say, you know what, I'll eat later. You ever been to what's the song by Sugar Hill Gang, when he goes to his friend's mom's house, and he's taking the chicken that tastes like wood, right? But he ate it anyway because his friend kind of forced him. But as an adult, nobody's really forcing us to have these particular things. Even when we do go to an event, we can say, hey, you know what, because I go to a lot of things where there is a breakfast and there's all the things that I'm like, oh, what is that going to do to me in about 90 minutes? That's going to hurt me. So I will choose, maybe if there's nothing else, yeah, maybe I'll have eggs. And, I do like bacon, so I'm going to have bacon. But I'm not going to have all the carbs and all that kind of stuff that's going to come with it. So when we go to an event, we go to an outing, we go to a restaurant, sometimes it's even asking, can you cook it this way? How is this cooked? Because if it's going to be freshly cooked, can we make sure it's not in fats and all this stuff? Maybe can they cook it in olive oil? You guys have olive oil here. So it's all about being intentional with us and not allowing other people to control what we put into our bodies. What are your thoughts on that? And then, Jose, this is the first time I heard about your foot. And I didn't even know, because I love that you ate potato and that brought the potassium into your body. I have polio as a kid, so I have to have potassium in my diet every day. So I eat a banana every day, or I'll have a different. I don't like to have the white potato, if you will. So I will have a colored potato, a red potato, or something like that, or better yet, a sweet potato. So I do make the choices, but I know that if I don't eat some sort of potassium, the cramps that I get are the size of not watermelons, grapefruits. And they don't last for like 2 or 3 minutes like most humans. Mine are there for half hour or so. And sometimes I will not be able to sleep that whole night. So there's nights that I just don't sleep because I got all these crazy cramps. A couple of times I almost had to go to the hospital, but I was able to hold off. And I drink a lot of water also. So there's all these things that we have to consider. And I love the fact that you broke down the different aspects of alcohol. And even for myself, I am a social drinker. That doesn't mean that if I meet 10 different people on the same day, I'm going to drink with each one, right? I'm going to choose. Maybe if I have a beer, I'm going to have a light beer. Maybe I'll have a one drink, but I'm going to consume as much as I can because I'm sitting with you, right? And I love that you broke that down for us. And anybody who is listening to this, share the show with other people who need to learn more about what we do with ourselves, with our bodies.
Yeah. There's always that choice of like, if the things that I, have reflected on in my own past, is like, why do I want to drink? What am I trying to do to my brain? Am I trying to put my brain in a different state, or like turn off my brain? Because I can tell you my brain is like going all the time. So sometimes the idea is nice to shut it down. Or this was one thing I thought that I realized over time was, do I actually, like a self-worth thing, do I actually think that people don't like me sober, or that they'd like me more a little, and so these questions of why are we doing it, or why do we think it's fun, are worth asking ourselves. And then I've done this before in times of my life where, if I was at a bar where there's, they're serving drinks or whatever, and you don't want to look like you're not drinking. So you want to kind of fit in, but you don't want to drink alcohol. And then you do something just like soda water and lime in a glass. And then people think it's a drink and you're not drinking. So there's multiple things you can do. And because I mean, it's an interesting thing about alcohol. People who are drinking feel awkward around people who are not.
Yes.
So they want everybody. That's why, people who are drinking will always be like, do you want to drink? Do you want to drink? Why don't you join us? Why don't you join us? And because they feel awkward that they're drinking, and then the other person is able to sit there and stay sober. Like, why are you doing that? And it's making them feel uncomfortable. It's the drinkers who feel uncomfortable, not usually the one who's not drinking. So those are just thoughts that I've had personally, because I've had my experience with alcohol and plenty of experiences with alcohol in the past, and I've had to wrestle with those demons. There's a reason why they call it devil's water, you know. But it's a very interesting, and I mean, the alcohol stuff is one of the first things that led me into what I do now, which is working on toxicity. And that kind of opened up some of the ideas about detox pathways and how they really work. And we have people now. So as an example, I talked about ADH and ALDH. We have people now. This is not a joke. They've been doing my program for a while. And so we call it the Love Your Liver program. And their liver is getting so good, like it's running so well. And we talked about that ALDH. That's the big thing I work on the most. They're in a certain way, they're happy and they're also upset that they can go and drink. Like, these are not alcoholics. These are not people who drink regularly. These are people who drink on occasion. They go and they drink and they're like, I don't feel it. Like, I'm spending all this money on alcohol.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm spending all this money on alcohol and I'm not feeling it. Like, it's a waste of money. So then all of a sudden they start going, it's a waste of money. I don't feel it. Like, because if you're going in to drink, right, why would you drink unless you were trying to, you know, if you know it's a poison, most of us understand alcohol is not good for us. So if you know it's not good for you, but you're going to drink it because it makes you feel a certain way, that's a choice that adults get to make. And so you choose to do it. But then if you're not even going to get that out of it, then you look at the cost and you look at your putting poison in, and then you go, why? Like, if my liver's just tearing through the alcohol, I'm not getting hangovers anymore. I'm hardly even getting tipsy from, like, these. We've talked to multiple people about this. They have to drink and like, they have to power down the drinks to get.
It's like those movies, right, where the girl out drinks the guy.
Yep. But they're having to power it down, and they just start going, this is silly. Like, why am I doing this? Because they worked so hard on making their liver better, and it is better, and it shows that they can't get a buzz very, very, very well. So anyway, that's an example of our theory and practice. Like, one of the biggest things we work on is ALDH, and that's what really messes people up from alcohol. And then we have people who just tear through the alcohol now, and then they go, well, I don't even want it. So yeah.
Let me share this with you guys. Everybody take a look.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
I got to tell you, Dr. Garrett, you belong in the Connected Leaders Academy. You're such an expert. And I know the guy that you can talk to. He's a handsome looking guy. You just saw his commercial. Here's the thing, right? When and you talk about all the people that you've helped, and you have these meetings, and you notice that people are they're different in how they're able to process foods or their days, if you will, right? Because it's what we ingest that's going to be toxic or non-toxic, or it's going to clean us. So the detoxing is about cleaning up. It's the same thing. I'd love to get into this aspect. I know we were going to talk about restoring the spirit, but I think we're not talking about that kind of spirits, right? Because we kind of did a little bit, right? But not restoring those kind of spirits, but restoring the spirit inside of us. And then I think one of the ones that in detoxing is not only in the US, but around the world, people are addicted to sugar.
Mhm.
And all these drug companies and food companies, I'm going to call them the same, right? Because they're drugs. Sugar is worse than crack, in my opinion. And it's very hard for people to get away from sugar because, hey, guess what? You go to Disney World, you go to any facility that's going to be with children, they're promoting sugar. They have a store called Sugar. Hello, it's at the mall. It's a huge, beautiful. The colors are amazing. And I wanna go in there and just look. I actually have gone in there. I look around. I'm like, wow, this stuff is cool. And they're like, sir, would you like to buy something? I'm like, no, but thank you. I just came in
Right.
to look. It's beautiful. And because now this can be made out of sugar. This is my water bottle, but they can make this out of sugar. It's crazy. And so we are constantly being bombarded on how we must consume it. It's all marketing. And all these companies are now changing because everybody knows that sugar is not good. They're changing the words, or they're hiding the word sugar in some other word. And there's like 300 different words for the word sugar, which is really toxic. Floor is yours, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did a whole live stream on this.
I'm sure you did.
There was a recent fad. There was a fad that kind of went around Twitter and some areas of the internet, which was this gentleman, I believe he was a doctor, was promoting glucose powder, also known as dextrose powder, which is basically sugar from corn. Okay. But it's only glucose. It's not fructose. And he was promoting it, saying that he had a 100% success rate with 1,500 patients on whatever their, basically all their health issues, especially stuff where they had neurodegeneration issues and other head trauma and other stuff like that. These people, some of them were taking up to 2 cups of corn sugar. Like, I'm not saying liquid, I'm saying powder.
Wow.
2 cups of this a day spread out over the day. And there was some people in my community who were getting duped into this. And I said, this is not, do not do this. Like, this is a disaster. And then I did on my live stream, I went over. So you know how we were talking about aldehyde dehydrogenase, the detox enzyme? So sugar itself, glucose, can turn into 4 different aldehydes in your body. It can turn into ethanol too. Some of it does turn into ethanol. So this massive aldehyde attack, and then even the ethanol, which then turns into an aldehyde, right? I said, this is going to end badly. Like, all these things that come out, and everybody's methylene blue lately. Oh my gosh, everybody's pushing methylene blue, the porta potty dye and the fish tank cleaner, as being some like brain drug. It's been around for like 100 years, 120 years. Like, they didn't figure this out until now, that all of a sudden it's magic. And it's got a black box warning from the FDA, which is the highest warning that the FDA gives. So methylene blue used as a drug has a black box warning, and it came back and everybody thinks it's wonderful. And I said, y'all can, I wrote a big Twitter thread and I said, y'all can do it. It's going to end badly. I tell people, I just have to wait it out like a siege. You poison yourself, and I just let it happen. I'll tell you not to. But otherwise, you want to do it, you're an adult, you make your choice, you want to FAFO, I will just watch. And then when you crash at the end, I'll be there to say, I told you so. This was a really bad idea. So people were shoveling down sugar. I mean, 2 cups a day is basically shoveling.
Wow.
And what came out of it in the end, I said, don't do it. It'll end badly. In the end, everybody said their problems, even if their problems went away at the start, they came back and everybody started gaining weight. And I'm like,
hello.
What do people think? I mean, there's other health groups out there that promote sugar. Like, there's health groups out there. The Ray Pete wackos will talk about drinking Mexican Coke. They actually think Mexican Coke is like a health drink. And they'll put sugar.
Like triple the sugar of American Coke, right?
It's high. Ours is high fructose corn syrup, and theirs is supposedly real sugar. Although there's articles out there saying that they're starting to to kind of lie on the labels, and there may be high fructose corn syrup in Mexican Coke now. And high fructose corn syrup has been shown in the labs, like when they digest it, the amount of sugar grams they put on the label when they break down this high fructose corn syrup, not only is there mercury in it, but there's way more calories in it than what they're saying on the label. So like for some reason it's tighter packed. And then when your body unpacks it, there's like all this extra calories in it. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, they'll be putting sugar in milk. They'll be just eating sugar like left and right. And then it's only done by young people, because older people
they take the packets of sugar and do that, right? They cut it.
They might. I mean, there's people who do it. They say sugar is anti-stress, right? And I go, okay, sugar being a comfort foods are actually addictive foods. They're generally toxic foods. Most people look at their comfort foods and they go, yeah, I know that's not good for me. That's why I call it a comfort food. And that's why you don't eat it every day. So anyway, but the sugar thing is, processed sugar it's a problem. It's a big problem. And people who are what we see on our program. So I tend to think of processed sugar. So I'm not against like whole fruit sugar.
Right.
People want to eat whole fruit. I've had 2 bananas already today, and I'm going to have more. So I have a very similar potassium thing to you. I need a lot of potassium. If I don't get my potassium for like 2 days, I'm starting to cramp. And it's bad. Mine's not as bad as yours, but it's bad. So whole fruit sugar, I always tell people, show me somebody who became a diabetic eating, a normal diet with lots of fruit, where they're eating some protein and they're eating tons of fruit, and it's just fruit, and it's not fruit juice, and it's not dried fruit, and it's not drinking, sugar in a glass called fruit juice. Like they can't ever do it. Right. But what we see in our program is, as we get people healthier, as we truly get them healthier, they lose their cravings for sugar. And we don't have to make them go on sugar detoxes and anti-sugar diets. We just say, if you're going to eat sugar, eat fruit, and do the diet over time, and this will likely shrink.
Yeah.
And it does.
You talked about people being addicted to certain things. I'm addicted to good food. I'm also one of those guys that does not put, I don't have salt in my house. And don't get me wrong, I know that salt is good for you, but there is natural salt that I get in my foods. And because I am Spanish, so there is that seasoning flavoring that we use. But I don't add the extra salt. I don't add the extra stuff. But yet so many times I'm at a restaurant and they're like, here's your salt. And they put it right in front of you. And then I know people that just take that salt without even tasting the food. And they're like, and then they're talking to you and they're still shaking it. I'm like, ooh, wow, that's hurting me. And I'm not even going to eat that. When we consider all the man-made food products, that's putting toxins in us, right? In a way. I mean, don't get me wrong. Who doesn't love apple pie? I love apple pie, especially a good one. But that apple is no longer whole, right? It's been touched by man, because now it's part of a pie, and it's got sugar and it's got all these things in order for the whole apple pie to taste good. Right. So one of the things that I'm always looking at is, and like I keep saying constantly, is how is that going to treat me afterwards? And it's, so you know what, maybe I will have a piece of apple pie, but I'm not going to have 2 or 3 pieces, because I'm not eating apple pie on a regular basis, or ice cream on a regular basis, or cake, or whatever. It's not going to hurt me as if I was doing it on a regular. Even once a week would be too much for me. And so when we look at our nutrition, we have to look at longevity. And that's what I fight for. Because Jose knows I've already invited him to my 100th birthday party. Dr. Garrett, I'd love for you to be there too.
Okay.
We're going to have a blast, right? So one of the things, for example, when I eat salad I prepare my salads, right? That's my fast food, by the way. It took me less than 4 minutes to prepare mine today. And so, and then I take it with me. I went on a 9-hour trip. I took salad with me. And people like, but there's restaurants along the way. You know, you're going to be 9 hours on the road. I'm like, yeah. And they're not going to have anything that's going to be good for me. So I made my salad. I took it with me. And so for me, it's always about longevity.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that you realize that as well for you and your clients and your patients. How can we currently fight all of what we see when we even go to the supermarket? Because everything is colorful, everything is attractive, everything is beautifully designed. So we put it in that shopping cart.
Say no to Uber Eats. That's a secret.
That's a great secret. That's a great secret. Unless you say Uber Eats, bring me some salad, but be careful where the salad is coming from, right? Because usually I'll order a salad and people go, what kind of salad dressing you want? I say, I don't want salad dressing. They're like, what? What's wrong with you? You have to put salad. It's why we have salad dressing. And I'm like, no. They're like, really? You're going to eat it just like that? I said, yeah, I actually get to taste it more than you do when you put your salad dressing on it. Like, man, you are weird. You're just weird. Isn't that plain? I said, no, you have no idea. I taste everything. One of my favorite dishes that I get from a restaurant is called arugula salad. What do they put in it? Chicken, pears. That's it. It's delicious. I love it. And it does come with a vinaigrette. I will have a vinaigrette, right? But that's basically it for me.
Right.
I used to put, Thousand Island. I used to put all that stuff when I was young, and I can work out and I would not gain a pound no matter how hard I tried. I used to eat everything in sight. It didn't matter if it was sugar. It didn't matter anything. I couldn't gain weight. I'm one of those freaks that people hated. People hated me because they're like, you eat everything. You don't gain weight. Like, yeah, I'm sorry. So, but the same problem you have trying to lose it, I have it in reverse. Right. So, but we all have issues. And it's listening to what we have with us. Jose, what are you thinking, my friend? I see you over there. You're like, No,
I all of this is very insightful. I was actually taking some copious notes. I think it's everything in moderation to some extent. I think Sifu's mind-body method has definitely helped me be more cognizant in terms of what I'm not only putting into my body, but how I lead my family too. Because 6 kids, they all have eyes and they're very, very aware of what's happening. So 2 things that I've adjusted in my just day-to-day is, A, what am I even bringing into the house? Right? When I order groceries, am I getting the junky cereals or am I getting better choices of cereal? Right? Am I getting a bunch of like junky snack foods or am I getting like a nice protein bars and yogurt and different things that could be beneficial in some way? So I think step 1 for me has been just being more aware of what is being purchased, number 1. And number 2 is making sure I'm just making better choices as consistently as possible when it comes to what I eat and how we eat dinner and breakfast and lunch as a family, making sure that it is being witnessed, because I can just tell them you shouldn't eat that while I'm sitting here stuffing my face with a donut. Right? Or I say, hey, you shouldn't have that soda when I have a 6-pack of beer with my feet up watching Netflix. So it's just like, you have to be the leader and you have to be self-aware and you gotta be the one to step foot in that first. And then you can say, hey, this is what I recommend and this is why. And they take you more seriously. So I think that's just been lately for me, what's important.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Let's take a look. You followed the rules. Tried the restrictions, counted the carbs, the steps, and the failures. You're not lazy, you're exhausted from doing it all without real change. What if the problem isn't you, but the plan? Sifu's Mind-Body Method is a 90-day transformation built on 7 unshakable pillars: mindset, movement, nutrition, hydration, fasting, journaling, and faith. This isn't another shortcut. It's your structure, your strength, your reset. You don't need harder, you need better. Ready to begin? Start today. I saw Jason reached out. He said he had trouble with his camera freezing and so forth. So we do miss you, Jason, if you're watching the replay, and hopefully we'll have you back on at another time. Thank you for mentioning Sifu's Mind-Body Method. And the reason I created it is because it's the way I live. And it's also what I believe, that we should all be accountable for our own actions every day. Right? Because if we live with intention, we'll make better choices. And, especially, you have a newborn, Jose. And if we don't start helping your newborn later on is going to make all the wrong choices. But if he sees you making adjustments or doing the right thing and purchasing the right foods, it's going to make a huge difference in his life down the line. And I want him at my 100th birthday party too.
You will be there, and everybody else will be there. I gotta say my final thought, because I have a call that started a minute ago, but I gotta run. But I just wanted to say very quickly, first of all, today was very insightful, very inspiring. It just reignited a fire in me to say, hey, you know what, Jose, make better choices. And I think that's what life is about, right? Is, are you making the right choices accumulatively over time? Because you can make a bunch of poor decisions. Like I always say, divorce doesn't happen overnight. It's a series of poor choices that led to that. Getting all of a sudden 100 pounds heavier didn't happen overnight, right? All the things that are either positive or negative are a series of decisions. So for me, today was actually what I needed to hear at the right time. So Dr. Garrett, you're a powerhouse. I appreciate all of your phenomenal insights. I mean, people pay him money for this kind of information. And anybody who's watching today, you got a treat. So thank you, Dr. Garrett. You're brilliant. Thank you, Sifu, as always. You're amazing. And take care, guys. I had a pleasure being here. I look forward to the next one.
All right. Thank you, Jose. And we'll talk soon. Dr. Garrett, Jose goes because he's got a call, which I think you should have a call with him also. At one point, I'll connect you with him.
Okay.
It's easy. It's a great conversation. You should be part of Connect the Leaders Academy. That's just my thought, right? The insights that you have gained because you became that detective are helping so many people. Today, you helped so many people who are listening to this show from all over the world to understand that their value is based on their choices that they make every single day. And we were going to talk about restoring the spirit. I see the cross behind you. Jose is a man of faith. I'm a man of faith. Jason is a man of faith. And when we restore our spirit, we're restoring it for the purpose that this body of ours is a gift, right? So thank you for being here and helping us today to even see a better and a deeper understanding of how we have to look at our lives every single day. I'd love for you to just share with us what people can expect. I'm going to put your website going across. You have about a minute, what people can expect, and then we'll end the show. So thank you.
Okay. Well, so the one that's been running on the ticker down there, Madness of Modern Nutrition, that is my free email course. So you can go directly to that website and sign up for it if you'd like it. I think it's like a 17 email course, and I'm kind of dissecting a lot of the detective stuff that I figured out.
I'm going to sign up. You know it, right? I'm going to go there myself. So
a lot of stuff that people have found out was wrong. My main site is nutritiondetective.com. That's where you can find like how to work with me or my health facilitators. We have a team, and then we make very clean supplements, and they're usually like, we try to make them as few ingredients as possible. If hopefully it's just the one thing in it. And then there's also the Love Your Liver program, which is my life's work put into a program, and there's a a social network built in there, a private social network where people can talk and get better together. That's a do-it-yourself thing that can also be found on the website. So the nutritiondetective.com is where people can find it. The last thing is the main place where people get information from me is my YouTube live streams. So it's youtube.com/nutritiondetective, and I do a live stream every Tuesday. The day may change at some point, but Tuesdays right now, and it's usually like 2 hours long. The live chat's full of tons of people chit-chatting, and they can ask me questions. And I did zinc last week, where we went over all about zinc, and how I related it to the top 10 causes of disease in the US, zinc deficiency. So it's a pretty important thing. A bunch of research on there showing everybody that what I'm saying is true.
Yeah, no, I listen. I'm going to sign up for your newsletter. I think everybody listening should do that. Go to your YouTube. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for caring enough, because a lot of people, they will do something for themselves, right? But they don't care enough to share that with someone, and you're doing that. So God bless you, my brother. Thank you. And listen, you need to come on more shows, man. I think we need your expertise on so much. And the reason that I am thrilled that you came here today is because even Jose said it, that the information he needed to hear was heard today. And we don't know when somebody's going to say something that is going to impact your life. So thank you for doing that today. Appreciate you. And do me a favor, don't go away. We're going to say goodbye to everybody. Everybody, thank you so much. Emilio, Jason, we missed you, brother. So I know we're going to make this happen again. And Don and William Plange and everybody who was listening, really appreciate you. Michael Martin Hummel, Daniela Roman, everybody, have yourself an exceptional rest of the day, and make today the day that you reset who you are and what matters in your life. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed day. Take care.